Hi, I am Mrs. Sarah Funtowicz, and I am planning to read a story to my daughter. What's your name?
Emily.
And I'm going to read it to you too. The story is The Tale of Benjamin Bunny. I thought it would be a nice springtime story. We just recently read the story of Peter Rabbit. Some of you may have read that story before. So today we're reading Beatrix Potter's The Tale of Benjamin Bunny. This story takes place a long time ago. Here is, I think that's Peter's mom in their rabbit hole. So Peter's going to be in this story too. One morning, a little rabbit sat on a bank. A bank? A bank? Do you think that means like the kind of bank we just went to where we got money out of the ATM?
No.
What do you think that could mean if he's sitting on a bank? Here's a picture. Let's show the picture over here too. What could he be sitting on if he's sitting on a bank?
A bank of a river.
Oh, it could be the bank of a river. That's a good idea. It's kind of like the side, like a little cliff. Okay. He pricked his ears and listened to the trit-trot of a pony. A gig was coming along the road. It was driven by Mr. McGregor, and beside him sat Mrs. McGregor in her best bonnet. Now, who is Mr. McGregor? Do you remember that character from the Peter Rabbit story?
The mean guy.
What does he do?
He cooks his dad into a pie.
That's true. He ate Peter's dad in a pie. That's true. But he also has a garden, so he gardens, right? Mr. McGregor has a garden. They're going along in a gig. So we talked about this before, we think a gig is probably a wagon, and we heard trit-trot of a pony, so maybe the wagon is being pulled by a pony. Oh, good, yeah, look at that picture. Let's show the camera so that they can see it too. You can see off in the distance, way back here, you can kind of see this looks like a wagon being pulled by a horse. Okay. As soon as they passed, little Benjamin Bunny slid down into the road and set off with a skip, hop, and a jump to call upon his relations who lived in the wood at the back of Mr. McGregor's garden. Ooh, he's going to take this chance to go visit his family. That wood was full of rabbit holes, and in the neatest, sandiest hole of all lived Benjamin's aunt and his cousins. Flopsy. Do you remember the other one's names?
Flopsy and Mopsy and Popsy.
Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. Old Mrs. Rabbit was a widow. Do you know what a widow is?
No.
It means that her husband died, and now she doesn't have a husband anymore. Do you remember how her husband died?
Somebody ate her in the pie.
Who ate her husband? Who ate him?
Mr. McGregor.
Mr. McGregor baked him in a pie, huh? I think he found him stealing some carrots and things in his garden, and he caught him, huh? That's very sad. Okay, let's see. She earned her living by knitting rabbit wool mittens and muffetees. I once bought a pair at a bazaar. She also sold herbs and rosemary tea and rabbit tobacco, which is what we call lavender. Little Benjamin Bunny did not very much want to see his aunt. He came round the back of the fir tree and nearly tumbled upon the top of his cousin, Peter. Oh, he's avoiding his aunt. I think he might be up to no good. They might be going to cause some mischief. Peter was sitting by himself. There he is. He looked poorly and was dressed in a red cotton pocket handkerchief. Peter, said little Benjamin in a whisper, who's got your clothes? Peter replied, the scarecrow in Mr. McGregor's garden, and described how he had been chased about the garden and had dropped his shoes and his coat. Oh, so now he's wearing a handkerchief because he doesn't have any clothes. Little Benjamin sat down beside his cousin and assured him that Mr. McGregor had gone out in a gig, and Mrs. McGregor also, and certainly for the day, because she was wearing her best bonnet. Oh, so what does it mean that she's wearing her best bonnet? Do you know?
It means she's wearing somebody's shoe.
Oh, it means that she's wearing her fancy hat, and he thinks that means they're going to be gone for a long time if she brought her hat. Maybe because she doesn't want to be in the sun for a long time? That could be, right? So she brought her hat? Okay, Peter said he hoped that it would rain. At this point, old Mrs. Rabbit's voice was heard inside the rabbit hole calling, "Cottontail, Cottontail, fetch some more chamomile." Peter said he thought he might feel better if he went for a walk. They went away hand in hand and got upon the flat top of the wall at the bottom of the wood. From here they looked down into Mr. McGregor's garden. Peter's coat and shoes were plainly to be seen upon the scarecrow, topped with an old tam-o'-shanter of Mr. McGregor's. What do you think a tam-o'-shanter could be?
Something, it's black, same thing.
Yeah, what does that look like at the top of the scarecrow?
A hat.
A hat. So we think maybe a tam-o'-shanter could be a hat.
Yes, it is a hat. I see it on the back.
Yeah, the picture showed us. Oh, and on the back? I don't see anything on the back. Little Benjamin said it spoils people's clothes to squeeze under the gate. The proper way to get in is to climb down a pear tree. Peter fell down head first, but it was of no consequence as the bed below was newly raked and quite soft. So he nearly got hurt, huh? They went over the garden fence. It had been sown with lettuces. They left a great many odd little footmarks all over the bed, especially little Benjamin, who was wearing clogs. Now here we can see the little lettuce sprouts. Do you see them growing up? So it said that the garden bed had been sown with lettuces. I hope you can see those little sprouts. There are little sprouts growing of lettuce. And I just wanted to talk about how being sown, that's what we do with a needle and a thread. Do you think that someone sowed the seeds into the soil, or does it mean something else as well?
Something else as well.
What else does it mean if you sow seeds? What does that mean?
I don't know.
You're not sure? Well, I think that, what do we do with seeds in the dirt? What do we do with them? We plant them, right?
Yeah.
Sowing seeds means to plant them. And that's kind of interesting because you sew fabric together to make clothing too. So there's two kinds of sew, huh? And I think these oh no, they're not spelled the same way. So that means that they're homophones. Homophones are words that sound the same, but they're spelled differently. And they have different meanings too. Little Benjamin said that the first thing to be done was to get back Peter's clothes in order that they might be able to use the pocket handkerchief. I wonder what they want to use the handkerchief for. They took them off the scarecrow. There had been rain during the night. There was water in the shoes, and the coat was somewhat shrunk. Benjamin tried on the tam-o'-shanter, but it was too big for him. Oh, look, he's wearing the hat, the tam-o'-shanter. So here we can see he's dumping the water out of the little shoes, and he's got the hat on, but it's too big for him. Then he suggested that they should fill the pocket handkerchief with onions. Oh, so he wanted to fill the handkerchief with onions to hold them as a present for his aunt. Peter did not seem to be enjoying himself. He kept hearing noises. Oh, he's really nervous. I think Peter's really nervous. Why should Peter be nervous and anxious like that, looking around for at noises and hearing noises?
Because Mr. McGregor might come back.
Mr. McGregor might come back. And Peter's already had one encounter with Mr. McGregor, and it was terrifying. He nearly got caught. Benjamin, on the contrary, was perfectly at home and ate a lettuce leaf. He said that he was in the habit of coming to the garden with his father to get lettuces for their Sunday dinner. The name of little Benjamin's papa was old Mr. Benjamin Bunny. The lettuces certainly were very fine. They're enjoying the lettuces. There you go. Peter did not eat anything. He said he should like to go home. Presently, he dropped half the onions. Oh dear. He's having a difficult time, isn't he? Why do you think he dropped the onions?
Because he's scared.
Yeah, I think he's not really focused. He's sort of distracted, huh? And why do you think he didn't eat any of the lettuces?
Because he's scared.
He's scared. Maybe he doesn't even feel hungry because he's so anxious and worried. Little Benjamin said that it was not possible to get back up the pear tree with a load of vegetables, that he led the way boldly towards the other end of the garden. They're going to go all the way across the garden. They went along a little walk on planks under a sunny red brick wall. The mice sat on their doorsteps cracking cherry stones. They winked at Peter Rabbit and little Benjamin Bunny. Presently, Peter let the pocket handkerchief go again. Oh dear, he's got so distracted. He's dropping his onions. And over here you can see the little mice with their cherry pits. What are pits, do you think? What are cherry pits?
They mean pits, not for inside the stones.
The stones, the cherries have stones. What are those? Do you know what they are inside? Are they really rocks?
No,
What are they?
they are
What's inside of fruits sometimes? Like apples?
and seeds.
Seeds. That's right. Cherry stones are the seeds. Sometimes they're called pits, and sometimes they're called stones, but they're really seeds. They got amongst flower pots and frames and tubs. Peter heard noises worse than ever. His eyes were as big as lollipops. He was a step or two in front of his cousin when he suddenly stopped. How is Peter feeling?
Very scared.
Very scared. What did he do that told you that?
Drop all his things.
He dropped stuff, and his eyes were big and round too, like he's looking everywhere for danger, right? So the author never said he was scared. They just explained what he was doing, and they showed us how he felt. That's pretty cool. This is what those little rabbits saw around that corner. Oh my gosh, what did they see? What did they see? What did they see, Emily?
A kitty.
Little Benjamin took one look, and then in half a minute, less than no time, he hid himself and Peter and the onions underneath a large basket. The cat got up and stretched herself. Oh, lazy cat, stretched and sniffed at the basket. Perhaps she liked the smell of onions. Anyway, she sat down upon the top of the basket. She sat there for 5 hours. Oh no! Oh my gosh, cats will just lay about and laze about and take naps and things. She is sitting there for 5 hours. Oh dear, they're stuck. They're stuck under a basket in Mr. McGregor's garden. I cannot draw you a picture of Peter and Benjamin underneath the basket because it was quite dark. And because the smell of onions was fearful, it made Peter Rabbit and little Benjamin cry. Oh, sometimes onions make you cry when you cut them, huh? Yeah. The sun got round behind the wood, and it was quite late in the afternoon, but still the cat sat upon the basket. At length there was a pitter-patter, pitter-patter, and some of the bits of mortar fell from above the wall. The cat looked up and saw old Mr. Benjamin Bunny prancing along the top of the wall of the upper terrace. Do you remember who old Mr. Benjamin Bunny is, Emily?
His father.
That's right. It's Benjamin Bunny's father.
Yay!
He was smoking a pipe of rabbit tobacco and had a little switch in his hand. He was looking for his son. Uh-oh, uh-oh. I don't think that you probably know. See, this is an old-fashioned story. In stories today, you don't have people smoking pipes, and you don't have people getting spanked. But I have a feeling the reason he's carrying that switch is because when he finds Benjamin, he's going to give him a spanking. Old Mr. Bunny had no opinion whatever of cats. He took a tremendous jump off the top of the wall onto the top of the cat and cuffed it off the basket and kicked it into the greenhouse, scratching off a handful of fur. Oh my goodness. The cat was too much surprised to scratch back. Here he is attacking him. Oh my goodness. Jumped right on the cat, wasn't scared at all. When old Mr. Bunny had driven the cat into the greenhouse, he locked the door. Then he came back to the basket and took out his son Benjamin by the ears and whipped him with the little switch. I knew it. Look at that. He's giving him a spanking with the stick. Then he took out his nephew Peter. Then he took out the handkerchief of onions and marched out of the garden. Oh, man. Benjamin's in the back there crying, and it looks like Peter's getting spanked too. See that? Oh, man. When I was a little kid, I got spanked. But do you get spanked? No. Sometimes families do that, and sometimes they don't. When Mr. McGregor returned about half an hour later, he observed several things which perplexed him. It looked as though some person had been walking all over the garden in a pair of clogs. Only the footmarks were too ridiculously little. Also, he could not understand how the cat could have managed to shut herself up inside the greenhouse, locking the door upon the outside. And there he sits, looking at his scarecrow stick, which is bare except for the hat, and looking perplexed or confused. When Peter got home, his mother forgave him because she was so glad to see that he'd found his shoes and coat. Cottontail and Peter folded up the pocket handkerchief, and old Mrs. Rabbit strung up the onions and hung them from the kitchen ceiling with bunches of herbs and the rabbit tobacco.
Is that the one?
I think that's Cottontail and Peter. Peter's the one with the blue coat.
I see it.
Yeah, they're folding up the handkerchief, and you can see the vegetables and lavender that are stored at the ceiling, hanging upside down. And that was the end of the story. So, The Tale of Benjamin Bunny, a classic by Beatrix Potter, who also wrote Peter Rabbit. Now, to finish up my video, I would like to show you a couple of things in my garden, because we have a few things that are growing that were talked about in the story. One of them was a type of herbal tea, a flower called chamomile. So I'm going to show you some chamomile flowers that are growing in my garden right now. And we happen to have some lettuces that they were eating in the story. So let's take a look. Let me see if I can turn this around. I don't know how to turn it around now. Let's see. I might just have to turn the camera itself around. So here are the lettuces in our garden. Maybe you can see those. Right here is some lettuce growing. And then, this is my chili plant. Right here, these little flowers are chamomile. So this is chamomile growing in our garden. And, oh, Emmy's just picked one. They smell lovely, but they don't taste very good. But they do make a really nice tea. So we are going to dry these herbs and make tea with them. And then what else could you show them, Emily, what's behind here? What's behind you right here? What's that?
Chamomile.
Well, what's this, though? What's this vine growing? That's right. Emily has some peas growing. Let's see if we can see them. Here are some. Oh my goodness, that's a nice one. She really enjoys these peas. And here's some pea flowers. We have to be so careful not to pick off the flowers. Let's see if we can see those.
Too.
Here's a flower. And here is some peas that Emily's going to eat. So thank you so much for joining me for the story of Benjamin Bunny. And I hope you enjoyed seeing a couple of things in my garden. Have a good day.